Hey there, and welcome back to the mini weekend. I'm your host, Jack. I started a little prematurely on that one for you guys. Cheers. Excuse me. Northern Soda Co. Excuse me. Pontoon Punch is what we went with tonight. First of all, welcome back. Second of all, once again, it's like the TikTok from last week. I apologize for the late notice. I was traveling for work last week, and I honestly was going to do a podcast that night, but totally forgot like all my podcasting stuff at home. And yeah, so just decided to do that video for you guys because I know there are a number of you that enjoy the picks and kind of use them as gauge, kind of all that stuff. So I wanted to at least get some for you guys. And then, coming at you Thursday night here. A little under the weather last night, and we're back better than ever. So soda of the podcast. Like I said, Pontoon Punch, excuse me, this is one of their sodas that I have had before, just not on the podcast. So I thought we'd do it tonight and get rolling with that. So the Pontoon Punch website, it says it's based off of a 1950s punch bowl punch recipe, sweet and sour, bubbly and refreshing, and once again caffeine free. I mean, I gotta say, I like it. For those that have been around for a while, I don't think there's been a Northern Soda Co. soda that I've had that I haven't liked. I don't know that I would say I like this one as much as like their Sunday Purple or their Orange or even the Minnesota Apple. But it's good. It's solid. The sour, I don't really get a ton of sour in this one. Maybe a little bit in the aftertaste, but not too much. But very, very good. I'm not much of a fruit punch person. If I am, I kind of like Hawaiian Punch, like the Hawaiian Punch brand. But again, like I said, solid. I have a feeling anybody that likes, fruit punch, will like this. Personally, like I said, in an effort to not have everything eights and nines, do like it. Like I said, it's a solid choice. I would just looking at their sodas here, whether I've tried them or not, there's, I mean, 6 or 7 other ones that I grabbed before this one. But not to say that it's bad. It's just not um, at the top of the list, like I said, with like the Minnesota Apple or Sunday Purple or things like that. So yeah, before we get into the ranking for it, once again, Northern Soda Co. For those that don't know or don't remember, located in New Brighton, excuse me, right off of 35W there, just north of County Road D West. Go check them out. It is, they got a lot of cool stuff going on. If you go to their website, northernsodaco.com, excuse me, they they have stuff going on. You can go in there. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, you can go in and get one of those 24 packs, like that cardboard stuff that you get like from Costco, and you can like essentially make your own 24 pack of sodas, which is something that is definitely on my list of things to do, and I am definitely planning on getting out there before the holidays for sure, before the first of the year, but hopefully before the holidays too. And yeah, go check them out. Like I said, northernsodaco.com. You can also find them on Facebook and Instagram. And lastly, I'll give it a 6.8. I'll give it a 6.8. And once again, lastly, cane sugar, caffeine free, Northern Soda Co. Go check them out, y'all. So with that, diving into Tommie Town here, the men's team is coming off of they're coming off of, or we weren't in, podcast mode last week, but in their last 4, they are 1-1-2. Lost the first game to Minnesota State 2 weeks ago, and then tied them 1-1 losing the extra point in the shootout session. And then against Bowling Green this last weekend, they tied the first night game, got the extra point in that game, and then beat them 6-3, kind of hopefully getting it in the right move. And then they're actually gearing up for, I think it's their first away series of the year against last year's CCHA, a regular season champion, the Bemidji State Beavers, and hope to kind of get things in high gear going here. In fact, courtesy of what is it? Cooper Gay. Sorry, I thought I had it up. I do not. Cooper Gay um, earned has earned his first Forward of the Week honors after a 3-goal weekend for the forward. So the Hanover, Minnesota native scored 3 goals and added an assist to lead all CCHA skaters this last week in the 2 games against the Bowling Green Falcons. He scored all 3 goals on the power play to bring his season tally up to 4, exactly half of all Tommie power play goals, and second most in the CCHA this year so far. And he is more than halfway to his career best 12 goals tally that he put up in 29 games a season ago. And it's also worth noting that this award is Gay's first CCHA honor in any sort in his 70-game career. He is 7th Tommie all-time to be named Forward of the Week, and first since Ryan O'Neal did it last season at the beginning of December. So a huge congratulations to him. And yeah, like I said, for this Tommie team, they really hope to turn things around as they got their 2 games coming up here against the Bemidji State Beavers. They will be taking on the Beavers 7:07 tomorrow night on Friday, and then on Saturday at 6:07. And hopefully they can get that first season sweep under their belt and just not have to worry about it from here on out. So good luck to them. As for the women's team, before we get into how they fared this last weekend, there's some news that we have to report on. So what was it? So Tuesday the 19th, it was announced that the women's head coach Joel Johnson has resigned from his position, and assistant coach Bethany Bronson has been named to the team's as the team's interim head coach. The Tommies are currently sitting at 5-8-1 overall, with a 2-7-1 record in the WCHA play, and will be competing at number 1 Wisconsin this upcoming weekend on the 22nd and 23rd. The series will be taking place in LeBon Arena in Madison, Wisconsin, and I gotta say I'm kind of shocked. I'm very shocked by this move. I really hope there's something behind the scenes that's going on that made him do this and kind of step down, because I'll be the first to admit I'm sure him and this program haven't really taken the turn for the better that they want, but I think you have to be realistic with your expectations. Like, I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago or so. Like, you're in the WCHA. Like it or not, you're going up against Ohio State, St. Cloud State, University of Minnesota, UMD, and Wisconsin. Those are 5 teams that on a yearly basis are always contenders to win the entire thing, let alone make the playoffs and make noise. So to think that this program was just going to go from brand new to being one of the top teams in the WCHA within 3 years, three and a half years, something like that, is just insane to me. Yes, you definitely want to compete, you want to get better, but you're still new to this whole thing. And like I said, for his sake and for the program's sake, I really hope there's some kind of family, something related going on behind the scenes. Obviously I'm not wishing any, harm to any of the family or anything like that, but hopefully there's just something different that made him make this decision instead of, oh, this program sucks, because I don't think this program sucks. I think they win the games that they're supposed to. This team already does a great job of winning and staying competitive in non-conference games, which is a first step. And then two, they're at least skating with some of these, other teams. I mean, Minnesota Duluth earlier in the season, they lost 0-3 and 0-2. In the 0-3 game, the third goal was an empty netter. Tied St. Cloud State earlier in the season, got the win of the shootout, 1-3 against St. Cloud State. Even the 5-1 game doesn't look great against an Ohio State, but the losing to Ohio State 1-0 in overtime, like, there aren't a lot of programs out there outside of the WCHA that can say that they played with Ohio State that well. So, yeah, for their sake, I hope all is well for Joel Johnson, but I hope there's something going on that helped him make this influence instead of just, no, I'm done. Because yeah, unfortunately, they're coming off of they're currently riding a 3-game losing streak. 2 weeks ago, they beat Lindenwood 7-2 before losing to them 1-6 on November 8th. And then this last weekend, they were up in Bemidji. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry. They were up in Bemidji and lost to Bemidji State 1-4 and 3-4. So, on the women's side, this is a team that they should be beating. But again, sitting at 5-8-1 on the season, with plenty of season to go, not a bad position to be in. In fact, 5-8-1 right now. They're already halfway to last year's win total. Last year they only won 10 total games. They went 10-26-1. So with that's 36. Yeah, 36. So with like 2/3 of the season still left to go, they have 5 wins already, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, wrapping up for them, like I mentioned, they will be in Madison this weekend. Tomorrow night, they'll be taking on the Badgers at 7 p.m. on Friday, and then Saturday, the game will be taking place at 4 p.m. So good luck to the ladies as they try to take down the number 1 ranked Badgers. Excuse me. And then I gotta be completely honest with you guys. This men's basketball team has stumbled out of the gates a little bit, in my opinion. Since we were last on, they've Oklahoma State, that's a tough game to lose. But Arizona State, I kind of feel like that's a game that they could have stolen away, and a game that could have and should have been theirs. It just didn't come out that way. But I got to be completely honest with you guys. This women's basketball team has impressed me very much coming out of the gate. Already sitting at 4-2. Kind of got their butts beat to Iowa State, but they were ranked number 8 in the nation, which was just insane. And like I said, kind of got their butts kicked. But that's neither here nor there. And then Wichita State. Wichita State is, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, is a game that, is battle tested. They're in the AAC. They're a team that men and women have been to March Madness and know their way around those kinds of things. Aren't a team to be taken lightly. And that's a game that they could have very well got the upset. Excuse me, as they were right there. That was only a 64-69 game so far for the ladies. Jade Hill is having an amazing year. I don't think that is surprising anybody. But I think there would just be, I think at the beginning of the season, there were a little bit of questions as to, how much is going to be asked of her with some of the additions of this new team, or like the new players. But I mean, yeah, 6 games in, she's already averaging on 33 minutes a game. She's averaging shade under 15 points per game. Joe Langben is averaging 18.3. And then Amber Scalia is the third Tommie, averaging double-digit points, 12.3 through the first 6 games. Then you even have Sammy Opacha. I always butcher that last name. I got no idea how to pronounce it. She's right there, too, with 9.2. So a lot of upside, a lot of good things to look forward to for this women's basketball team. And honestly, I could see them, you know, being just in the thick of things for the Summit League tournament at the end of the season, just like the men have been the last couple of years. So wrapping up college basketball, the women will be in action a couple of times this upcoming week. So they're actually off until Monday, and they'll be in Shinnecock Arena taking on McAllister at 7 p.m. And then they'll be off for Thanksgiving week before hosting UIC at Shinnecock Arena on December 1st. So good luck to both the men's and women's teams, and hopefully they can continue to string some games, some wins along here. And then for the football team, you got to be honest with you guys. This has been, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This has been a bit of a disappointing season as far as I'm concerned for this football team. They're currently riding a 3-game losing streak. They went to Moorhead, Kentucky, and laid only 6 points in a 21-7. They're back on November 2nd, and then at home, their homecoming game, they lost to Drake 22-19. And then just this last week, I know Butler was ranked number 25 in the nation, but this was very much a team that I think a lot of people had St. Thomas winning. And we couldn't get it done. We lost 20 out of 36, and ultimately Butler just kind of ran away with the game. They only went into halftime only down 7-6, and then even going into after the third quarter, they were still right in the thick of things. But then Butler put up 13 more points in that fourth quarter, and what was it? I think Tack. Sorry, I shouldn't have done it. On Tack, I want to say he threw one. Yeah, he threw 2 picks. And Michael Rosberg threw 2 picks too. So again, it's tough to win a game when you have 4 turnovers in that category. But just thinks, obviously, I think with their loss 2 weeks ago to Drake, kind of put the nail in the coffin with not being in the hunt for the Pioneer Football League championship this year. But they got a big game against Dayton this upcoming Saturday at O'Shaughnessy Stadium. They're 3-0 in season finale games so far, so hoping to go 4-0, and it'll be a big win. If they win this, they secure 6-6 record, 500 record, and won't have to deal with a 500 record on the season. And again, I think looking back on the season, we'll kind of look more into this next week. When we wrap up the season for the Tommies. But I think, these, as much as you want to win your conference games, I think these non-conference games ended up biting them in the ass a little bit more than they anticipated. I think, Sioux Falls, I think, is a game that they, if I remember correctly, they didn't seem very well prepared for. This was a team that they could have very much beaten, and they just got their butts kicked by them. And then Lindenwood, I think, kind of the same thing there. So, I think you flip those 2 games, and all of a sudden you're going into this last game, 7-4, yeah, 7-4 instead of 5-6. But hey, you can't go back and change time, but you learn from your mistakes, and hopefully Glenn Caruso will come back with an even better team next year. Which will be huge because next year will be the final year before Tommie University of St. Thomas teams are eligible for postseason play. So that is what we have for the Tommie football team. So before we move on to our professional sports, we have our college football week 13 picks. I can't believe we're already 13 weeks into college football. We're going to be getting into the NFL a little bit later here, and I can't believe we're already sitting here with 7 games left to play in the season. Or 6 games. It's crazy to me. So, anyways, college football week 13 picks for you guys. The first one I like is a potential game of the year. Yes, you heard it here from me first. I like Indiana plus 12.5 over Ohio State. Um, 12.5 points is simply just way too much for Indiana, in my opinion. And as much as don't, I don't know if I don't want to admit this, but this Indiana team, as far as football is concerned, has very much been a bottom feeder team for quite some time here. But this year, they've proven to us that they're just a really good football team, and I don't think the media or Vegas has been giving them the credit that they deserve. Um, I think Kurt Signetti is a good coach, and like I said, I think just straight honesty with you guys, 12.5 points is way too much for this Indiana team. Um, I think for the Buckeyes too, this is going to be the best offense that they've seen since that Oregon game. And if you guys don't remember how the Oregon game went, Oregon not only beat them but put up 32 points on them. I'm gonna pump the brakes here a little bit on Indiana. I think Ohio State is a better team. I think it's in Ohio State, and some of these factors play into it. Ohio State has been here, done that as a program. Indiana has not. I do think Ohio State will ultimately win. I just think it's going to be a one possession game. Yeah, I don't see this game being decided by more than 7 points. So, like I said, give me Indiana plus 12.5 over Ohio State. The second game, I like Syracuse and UConn to hit the over 53.5. Kyle McCord is a very good quarterback, and I think that they can score a lot of points. And I know this Connecticut offense can put up points too. Both of these teams currently are averaging over 31 points per game. So I definitely got this one hitting, well over this 53.5 mark. And then the last one I got for you guys, I like Ole Miss, minus 10 over Florida Gators. They're coming off a bye, and I think that's going to give their coaching staff a little bit extra time to get ready for the Gators DJ Lagway. Ultimately, I think the Rebels defense can cause some issues for the Gators offense. And I think you add to the fact that, this Ole Miss team knows that they need to win out to have a chance at the college football playoff, that it's going to be a disaster waiting to happen for the Florida Gators and will be enough for them to lay the hurt down on Florida. And then I was just realizing after reading through these that we didn't really talk much about the Gophers. Not much needs to be said. They were on a bye week this last week, and before that, they lost a game that they get away from themselves from Caliac Manis of all people in Rutgers. But they have a big, 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 big game against Penn State this Friday. They're 6-4 on the year, so the good news is they can lose out and still be bowl eligible, but you obviously want to, if you're PJ Fleck, you're still hoping for the best. I think, right now they're sitting at 6 in the Big Ten, which if you told me at any point that the Minnesota Gophers would be in the top third of the Big Ten standings at the beginning, anytime after the second week, I would tell you you're fucking insane. But anyway, they're sitting there right there for the taking. This Penn State team is currently fourth in the nation. They're a very, very, very good football team. I understand this game is at home. I really hope this Gopher team can do what they've done against the likes of Michigan, USC, Illinois, and keep it a close game. Maybe lose by 1, lose by 2, lose by 3, lose by a last second field goal, something like that. Show the nation that you're a good football team. But this Penn State team, I think, is just too talented, and it's going to be tough for them to win. They should be able to beat Wisconsin. So realistically, for me, at this point, this is a 7-5 season, 5-4 in conference standings for the Gophers. So we're just going to have to cross our fingers and hope for the best for the Gophers. For the Wild, continuing their hot start with the conclusion of their game tonight against the Edmonton Oilers. they are still off to an incredible start. They're now 12, 12-3-3. Nope, haha, did not play it yet. 13-3-3 on the season, which perfectly segues into our one and only question we had for the podcast. And Kate Doyle 2021. I'm just realizing now that we're not doing this, but I did bring up in the last podcast. Going forward, I promise after this week we will do this. But going forward, if you want to ask a question for a podcast, unless you let me know that you want to remain anonymous, not only are we going to shout you out, but we're going to post your question too so that other people can see it. Just, another kind of cool shout out. I thought would be kind of cool. So, Kate Doyle 2021 wants to know, Jack, what, in your opinion, is the biggest difference between our start this year and last year? And, I mean, I don't want to say you're dumb or anybody else is dumb, but in my opinion, it's pretty clear what the difference is. And it's something that I could not have been more wrong about in the preseason Wild and NHL preview, and that's our goaltending and Philip Gustafson specifically. I will go on record. I very much take blame for all of my mishaps and my missed predictions and everything like that. And I will be the first to admit that so far, I have been wrong about Philip Gustafson. He is hands down the one reason why we are up to this hot start. Let me read off some stats for you guys. Last year, in his tonight, he didn't play. So through his first 14 starts, he's already made this year. Okay. Last year, in his first 14 starts, the Wild were 5-7-2 at that point, and had 12 of a total of 28 points. He was 5-7-2 in those starts. He had a 894 save percentage and a 7.54 goals against average. So I think if, again, you look back on the last year for the Wild, we kind of got behind the eight ball. I know there were a lot of people that said, we were without guys in the middle of the season. We couldn't really get our footing going. I don't really think in the middle of the season we looked all that bad, all that much. Excuse me. We didn't lose very many games consecutively, just like we didn't win 20 games consecutively. But we had a very poor start to the season, and this is a goalie that, like I said, I could not have been more wrong about. Bill Guerin was shopping this guy this offseason. So let's put those stats that we just talked about into perspective in this season. Okay, right now the Wild currently have in his first 14 starts have 20 of a possible 20. He is 9-3-2 in his first 14 starts. Only 3 goalies in the NHL currently have more wins than that. He's first in the NHL with a 2.07 goals against average, and he's second in the NHL with a 926 save percentage. The only similarity from this year's 14 starts and last year's, he's got 1 shutout to his name. But I mean, it's insane to think about this turnaround that he's making. And truthfully, I think, if you're the Wild, you don't necessarily need Gustafson to be standing on his head the entire year. But if you can get some solid goaltending from him. Dan talked about this on the podcast. I think everybody assumed and figured we were going to have, a decent amount of offense coming with, just our talented roster. But on the defensive end, you have to lock down and you have to, not be giving up too many goals. And let's just look at the numbers from last year. Last year, Gustafson early on in the season was losing to Toronto 7-4, losing to LA 7-3, losing to Columbus 5-4, losing to Philadelphia 6-2. Dallas 8-3. I mean, he was just giving up a copious amount of goals, and it didn't help his case. Now, I don't know what he's doing, but he's seeing the puck better. He's making more stops. Our defense, our D-men are helping him out a lot more now. And honestly, as much as I don't like to be wrong about predictions and stuff like that, I am glad I am so far wrong about this one, because I know one of my predictions was we were going to be trading Gustafsson, and Jesper Wallstedt was going to be like our go-to guy by the end of the season. And if this keeps out, Wallstedt could be maybe looking at a couple of games late in the season just to get some reps, but like at the absolute most. So thank you for your question, Kate Doyle, 2021. So yeah, that's what we got for the Wild. Like I said, coming off of a big win tonight. Tonight's win didn't count towards Gustafsson stuff because Fleury was in it, but they did get a nice 5-3 win over Edmonton. 5-2. Edmonton got an extra skater goal with like 20 seconds to go. But anywho, this upcoming week, they will be in Calgary Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, 3:00 game. Monday, they will be back in Minnesota for a game against the Winnipeg Jets at 7 p.m. And then Wednesday, the night of the next podcast, they will be in Buffalo taking on the Sabres at 6 p.m. So that is what we have for the Wild. And then on to the Wolves. So didn't really get any questions on the Wolves, but had a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, had a handful of comments from people saying, oh, the Timberwolves suck. Predictions, whatever. This team's going to struggle to win 42. And I'll say it again. Like Aaron Rodgers said this, 4 or 5 years ago? Relax. I understand this team isn't looking as great as we would hope they would be looking, but you have to look at the sample size. We are 15 games into the season. Now, should we have beaten the Raptors tonight? 1,000,000%. Should we have been able to win 3 games in 3 of 4 games against the Trailblazers? Of course. You can already look at, 1, 2, 3 games that should have gone in our favor. But once again, we already talked about it earlier with some of, with the Wild and with everybody. You really can't play that shoulda, coulda, would game. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say, regardless of how good and regardless of the talent that Anthony Edwards presents, I think when you bring in new faces, Anthony Edwards, his first, this is his fourth year in the league, and for his first 3 years, he was really tight with Cat. Like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have traded Cat for Ant's sake, but he built a chemistry with him. There's a reason they played so well together. So, as good as he is, you have to allow some time for, hey, when are guys going to go in? When are we going to get? When am I going to get my rest? When is Rudy going to get his rest? When is, and just all this kind of stuff. And it's actually funny that I bring up our defense, because even though I'm the first one to say this defense isn't where it should be yet, we're the 10th best team in the league, actually, with opponents' points per game with a 111.1. Now, we're not the Orlando Magic, who are only allowing 102.3. And, we're more in the middle of the pack with points for with 113.9. And, again, nobody asked this question, but I think similar to the Wild question, what's to tribute? We have to be honest with ourselves. Anthony Edwards is shooting great from 3-point range this year so far, but he is overall not shooting great from the floor. I think he's got to do a better job. If he's going to commit to this long game that he wants, don't settle for these long twos. Just take an extra step back or two and throw up a 3 or drive the lane. Like, I kind of start to understand now what my dad used to talk about with why are you settling for mid-range game, shots. Like mid-range game is, outdated and all this stuff. And yeah, I think it's a little unorthodox, but when your star player is not shooting great to start the season and you're still in a position to be successful, that's a good problem to have, right? Um, guys like Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Gil Alexander Walker, Mike Conley, those guys are going to hit their shots. You just obviously need your star to be shooting a little bit more effectively than I think it's like 42% a game or something like that. But like I said, let's give it some time. If they're still playing this 500 basketball, 30 games into the season, then let's start to worry. I think, there's a mix of everything, but I think people are so easy to overreact. And at the same time, I think people need to understand, especially with hockey and basketball, the seasons are so damn long that to get worked up after, unless like if we were 0-15 right now, 1-14, sure, I would say let's start to worry a little bit. But guess what? We're not. We're still winning games. We're being competitive. We're not getting blown out. Those kinds of things. So I think you need to put in perspective an 82 game season. I think a lot of again, I bring up the term casual fans. I think a lot of casual fans look at this last year or look at last year, and I think 25 games in the season, we were like 22-3. As great as that is just unorthodox. Like that just doesn't happen a ton. You look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're 14, 13, 14, or 15-1 right now. I don't think anybody could have predicted that. I think if you would have asked at the beginning of the season, all the Cleveland Cavalier fans, where they think they'd be 16, 15 games in the season, I think they'd say, maybe 10-5, 11-6, 12-4, whatever. I don't think anybody could have predicted that they were going to start off as hot as they did. And that happens. Are they going to be able to keep that up all year? Probably not. But that's the beauty of this long season. You get to see who's going to kind of get to the top and stay at the top, and who's going to kind of ebb and flow. And again, it all works out. So, again, we're 15 games into the season. Convene on this topic in about 15 more games. And if in 15 more games, 30 games in the season, we're sitting at 16-16, 15-15, 14-16, something like that. Okay, let's push the panic. Let's lightly start pushing the panic button. I don't think that that'll come to it, but again, let's just give it some time. Give these guys some time to gel and become a team. So yeah, that's what I got for the Wolves. Their upcoming schedule for those that are interested. Once again, like I mentioned, they lost a tough one in Toronto, who, as much as you hate to admit it, this team is on the rise. Scotty Barnes is a stud. They got some good guys up there. It's just a matter, again, of them playing together cohesively. But Sunday, on the 24th, they'll be in Boston at 2:30 p.m. for a game against the Celtics. Then Tuesday, the 26th, they will host the Houston Rockets at 7. And then Wednesday, the night of the next podcast, they'll be hosting at 7 p.m. the Sacramento Kings. So, again, let's check in about 15 games, maybe. Now for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, gosh, what a game. A win's a win, but definitely did not look pretty. Once again, this Vikings defense came out to show. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me in this win is we essentially didn't even allow 200 total yards from the Tennessee Titans. I understand this. The stat sheet says 294 total yards, but they got a third of those yards, 98-yard touchdown on one pass play that, you have to give credit when credit's due. That was an incredible play, but you just don't see that happen very often. But again, good game. I think, I did see this where Undefeated beat all of our AFC South teams this year now: Tennessee, Indianapolis, the Jaguars, and then Houston. So huge to that. Sitting at 8-2 right now. I'm still flabbergasted that we're 8-2. Did not see this coming, but could not be happier. And yeah, obviously have to clean some things up. Looking at everything here, we definitely didn't rush the ball very effectively. We stayed clean, meaning we didn't really get penalized a lot, which is good. But Darnold gave up a fumble that could have been avoided. We were 2 for 2 in the end zone or red zone, but all in all, good game from the standpoint of we got the win, 8-2. But obviously, we still got some things to clean up against the Chicago game, because this will be our last of our road trip. And this will be, I don't know that I want to use the word tough, but this will be a very, very interesting game. I think you look at both these teams and we're very similar. I think our defense is very good. I think Chicago's defense is very good. And I think talent-wise, Chicago's offense should be pretty good. They have not been playing very well this year. Caleb Williams is crap on a stick, to put it nicely. But ultimately, I think Darnold is going to take advantage of his offensive weapons just a little bit better, and we should get the win. But let me be very clear about something. If this is a game that Sam and our playmakers cannot take care of the ball, and we give up too many, possessions, this team needs to be better. Play calling needs to be a little bit better. We just need to play better collectively as a unit going forward, honestly. So why don't we just jump right into it? Week 12 NFL picks. Honestly, once again, I cannot believe we are through 11 of the NFL season and about to come up on Thanksgiving games. Fucking crazy if you ask me. So how am I picking this Vikings game? I think we're going to win this game, but the over-under is set at 39.5. As much as I want this offense to get its footing again and go off, I think this game, I'm actually, instead of taking the points, I think I'm going to take the Vikings. With the Vikings win, the Vikings and the Bears to hit the under 39.5 line. I think our Vikings team is very a pass-first offense with Sam Darnold. I think the Bears have been a very pass-first defense with Eberflus. But ultimately, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, I think Darnold has a better play caller to take advantage of his weapons. The Bears will have trouble moving the ball without Caleb being let loose with his arm and improvisation. But he can also expect plenty of pressure from Brian Flores' defenses. And if there's one thing we have seen in the NFL, it's that rookies usually don't do great against good defenses. So I'm taking the under, but I got us winning this one 24-10, which leads me into my lock of the week. I got the Miami Dolphins, who are -7 over the New England Patriots. The Dolphins are finally getting their groove back offensively with Tua back, and the usual playmaking suspects for McDaniels. But now they're also adding big-time athletic tight end Jonnu Smith to that mix. I think Smith, the former Pat, should be pumped to go after a team that gave up a TE touchdown last week, while more of the field opens up for that running game and Tyreek Hill. So give me the Fins to win this one 31-20, hitting that +7. And then for my upset of the week, I actually really like the LA Rams +3 over the Philadelphia Eagles. It helps that this game is in LA, certainly, but I think the Rams defense is really keeping them in games recently. And when Matthew Stafford can't find the right passing game matchups for Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they are hard to beat. but expect Sean McVay to scheme away from Cooper DeJean and Vic Fangio's defense and be more patient with the run than most teams versus Philadelphia have gone. I think their speedy youth and rising pass rush can contain Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley just enough to edge out a 27-24 victory. And then lastly, before I get into our in-game predictions for the Vikings, I think the Vikings have to do two things to fix coming into this game. I think one, they have to stop running the fucking ball up the middle. We haven't had any success with design plays to go right off center or anything like that. Like, it's one thing if it's a design sweep to the right or a design sweep to the left, and as they're going out, they make a cut because they see a hole. It's one thing if they do that, but to keep running down the middle, it's just not going to work. We have to stop doing that. At least running to the off the tackle or off the guard will at least get at least a couple yards. I can probably count on one hand how many times we've gotten positive yardage going right up the middle. So need to stop that. And then second of all, as much as I love this blitz packaging, I think Brian Flores needs to do a better job of getting our secondary more help and less one-on-one island coverage. I'm not saying they suck. I'm just saying I think it would help to have more help back there so that when you have the deep threats out there, you're not putting them in one-on-one kind of a situation. So those are two things I would like to see cleaned up coming into this game, which will bring me into our offensive prediction. So this week, offensively, I think Sam Darnold is going to be able to start and get back into his rhythm. I think he throws for over 240 yards with 0 turnovers in the game. No interceptions, no fumbles. I think he's got a clean game, and I think a clean game next week puts him in a great headspace heading into the last 6 games of the season. And then on the defensive side of things, I got us picking up Caleb Williams at least once. I expect Brian Flores' defense to be scheming up some things and make him feel uncomfortable and make some errant throws. And Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Byron Murphy Jr., and all those, Josh Metellus, all those boys will be waiting for those errant passes to make the best of it. So yeah, and then before we let you guys go, we finally, for the first time since week 3, had a winner in our pick'ems, or in our, not pick'ems, we'll get to that in a second, had a winner in our first touchdown challenge. And my wife, Cassian, won the $315 pool. I still can't believe it. She still can't believe it. She didn't think she even had a chance. So huge congratulations to her, which means this week the pot starts over brand new. So once again, I will put the Venmo handle down here, and I will put a couple of good examples of what to do. Once again, all you got to do is Venmo me $5, and in the description, say how you think the first touchdown of the game between the two teams will happen. So it can be a rushing touchdown from a receiver or a receiver on any of the two teams in the Vikings game. It doesn't have to be a Viking player, but denote whether it's a scoop and score, denote whether it's a pick 6, rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown, and if you win, if you guess it correctly, you win the pot or part of the pot, based off of how many people also picked it as well. So that's what we got for our check-in on the first touchdown challenge. And then for our pick'ems, we have the usual suspects up here at the top, including tonight's Thursday Night Football game in Week 12. We got Jay Husey 77's pick 1 in sole place, first place with 1,110 points. Dagan in second place with 1,050 points. Andre the Giant's picks 1 with an easy 1,000 points. Sam Puppy's picks 1 with 990 points. And then Skolo JR1 Jandernuts picks 1, and Tate are all in a 3-way tie for 5th with 870 points. So congratulations to those guys. Still lots of football to be played despite us being so far into the season. So make sure you go in and update your picks for this upcoming week. And then lastly, like I've said before, this podcast is about you guys. If you guys have questions you want me to answer or topics you want me to address, please reach out on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. You can email us. This time I got to do a better job of this. I'll put all of our social media handles over here for you guys. Make it simple for you guys. Reach out if you have questions. Let us know if you'd like to stay anonymous. And we'll go from there. Till next time, Mini.